Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 421 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out for Christmas. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So go and pick up that book on Amazon, or it's available on Barnes & Noble as well. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, I have a great idea that needs to be spread in a TEDx talk, but I'm also mindful of the work that goes in to pull that off the right way. So as soon as I'm done with this doctorate degree at the end of 2024, I promise you that that is going to be my next goal, and you're going to see me up on the TEDx stage. And speaking of TEDx, our next guest has done it twice. Lorenzo Lewis has been a keynote speaker at numerous venues across the country, from organizations to universities to government agencies, exploring themes such as toxic masculinity, therapy, taboos, and much more. He has also presented at TEDxFayetteville and TEDxPointParkUniversity. His work has been featured in countless media outlets, get this, including Oprah Magazine, BET, CNN's Great Big Story, NPR's Weekend Edition, Revolt on PBS, Black Enterprise, Men's Health, Huffington Post, as well as brands like Kenneth Cole and the Minnesota Vikings. He also has made appearances on Love and Respect with Killer Mike, Jay-Z's Rock Nation, Nick Cannon's Mornings, The Today Show, The Kelly Clarkson Show, Jordan Peele's Monkeypaw Productions, and so much more. I couldn't be more excited. Welcome to the show, Lorenzo.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, Michael, thank you so much. I almost was wondering who you were speaking about with all those different comments.
Lorenzo, I'm available. If you want to bring me on the road, I'll introduce you, no problem.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm grateful to be committed to serving our community, and nonetheless showing up for our young people across the country. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Amen. Absolutely. Anytime that we have a guest that really connects with young people like you do, I want you on the show because people need to hear your voice. And, you've got such an interesting story. I mean, you were born in jail to an incarcerated mother. You struggled with depression, anxiety, and anger all throughout your youth. And then at age 17, you almost re-entered the system of mass incarceration where you came from. So what happened to you at age 17?
Well, honestly, Michael, I got to be honest. I was a true product of my environment. I tell people unfortunately, I didn't grow up across the street from, a bunch of attorneys and academics and lawyers. And so nonetheless, I didn't live on a very horrible community. But however, in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, the community I did stay in was slightly diverse, but also had, people that was also not going in the right direction. And so following those footsteps, recognizing where that took me to being in the back of a police car at the age of 17 for a firearm, life really flashed before my eyes. And I was 1 month away from dodging a felony conviction that could have destroyed my entire life. So grateful that the judge gave me a second shot. And ever since then, I've just really been able to turn it around. Obviously, use that story as a part of paying the purpose, and obviously allowing people to know that we're better than where we have come from and started, and there's so much more on the other side. And so just glad to be here to share sentiments of that story and more with you today. So,
man, what a story. I mean, thank goodness that judge showed some mercy there and gave you another opportunity. And it just goes to show, like, if you give people a second chance, they can really just amaze you with the results. So I'm super happy that judge did give you that second chance, and here you are. You also chose Arkansas Baptist College for your undergraduate experience. So talk to our audience a little bit more about HBCUs and, why you decided on Arkansas Baptist.
Yeah, at the time, I started my I actually started off going to University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, which is another HBCU in Arkansas. Let's be mindful, I graduated with a 1.9 GPA, and I was maybe had like under a 15 on my ACT. You can imagine for someone who was tied into, gangs and tied into the wrong different groups, I totally just missed out on the academic experience. So coming out of school, no one wanted to accept me because I had a prior juvenile record at that time, and also just very low grades. And so I just had to go to a school that would just give me a shot. And so I started off at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, lost my mom 2 years later, got really depressed, and then went back to school and transitioned to Arkansas Baptist College. And so, really going back, just thinking about those different parts of my journey, I believe it also, talks about how we can continue to overcome in those moments and continue to look forward. And so I never gave up on recognizing that college could be for me, that there was a spot at the table, and I just needed to really seize the moment. And I'm so glad I did, because I get to share these conversations with people like yourself, and really allow, young people to know that when we go through setbacks, whether that's grief or whether we had a challenging past, or, maybe faced a divorce in our youth ages, just knowing that there's still an opportunity to get by and do more. So.
I love that persistence. And I'm sure that's definitely hitting a nerve with a lot of our listeners right now that have all kinds of obstacles in their lives, just like you did, and you managed to overcome it. It shows other people that it's possible. And those dreams are real. The other thing that I love about you too is you're also a financial member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So what made you decide to join Kappa?
Yeah, so honestly, going to college, first off, I went in kind of like bottom of the barrel, right? Like taking a bunch of classes to get caught up to the traditional courses I need to take. Was a challenge, and really, I believe trying to find my identity was another big part of that. Being born in jail to an incarcerated mother, I was also raised by my aunt and uncle, and so I was looking for a sense of community, a sense of belonging. And so Kappa Alpha Psi really represented principles that showed me a sense of achievement, a sense of not only brotherhood, but also a sense of community, and how when you join community of like-minded individuals that you can continue to accelerate. And so, that was my choice at that time. And I also really felt like for someone, who was a past gang member, to join a collegiate fraternity who had just done amazing things, across the world, it will truly help to catapult my reputation and my credibility, that would allow me to navigate and see the success that I'm able to see today. And so I think that's why fraternities and sororities is so important, because it truly changed my life. It gave me a turning point that I was able to help navigate in my life. So
I agree with you. I joined for the same reason. It was love and belonging, man. It's like, it's the same. Humans have that fundamental need for love and belonging under Maslow's hierarchy. And that's what fraternities and sororities give. That's why you and I are such champions for the fraternity and sorority system, because kids need that. They need, if you want to be successful, step number one is that love and belonging. You need food, you need shelter, yes, but you also need love and belonging in order to reach that highest pinnacle. And that's what, why I'm such an advocate for the fraternity and sorority system. People don't understand, why at this age are you still such an advocate for fraternity and sorority? Number one, I believe it's for life. That's number one. You and I took that oath for life. It wasn't just this is what we're going to do, in school. No. That's not what we promised, right? And then the other piece is that love and belonging, because I needed that in order to be successful. I needed that piece so much. And so I'm glad that it, had a similar impact on you as well. And then, you started the Confess Project in 2016. Tell our audience, what is the Confess Project, and tell us about the impact that you've made with it.
Yeah. So the Confess Project initially started in 2016 as a national mental health organization. That's still what we represent, but we really started at the core of training barbers and hairstylists across America to be mental health advocates. And to date, we've trained about 4,000 barbers and stylists across 62 cities and 30 states, mostly going in diverse and minority communities. When we really started our work, we've made a significant impact, but to now, we're now also training frontline workers and really supporting student leaders, educators, law enforcement, and civil servants in a way that's giving them the same impact and joy that our barbers and stylists have been able to enjoy over the last few years. The reason this training has been so impactful because it's been evaluated by Harvard University, and it's been published also in partnership working with federal agencies. We had a 3-year long catalytic partnership with Gillette, which is one of the top shaving and grooming brands in the country. And we worked with the Atlanta Falcons. We worked with Google, and obviously just a list of other folks, even now down to the Walmart Foundation. And so we've been able to catapult this one training to being a real way that frontline folks can help to listen, reduce the stigma of mental health, help to communicate positively, and help to validate one another. We did this in a way to think about a grooming experience. We know going to a barbershop or a salon can be very interesting because we divulge everything, right? Like we feel comfortable. We're in a, it's just like going to someone to getting their nails done or getting a pedicure, right? And so we've been able to train that grooming community, and now obviously helping to train other frontline people like student leaders who can help impact other folks in our communities as well. So
I love that, man. Good for you to come up with this and to bring it to fruition. I want to talk to you a little bit more about that training and the certification, because I do think there's a lot of college students out there that want to get involved with mental health and to help out in some way. And I think these certifications and these trainings help. And it's also something you can add to your resume too. So I think it makes you a little bit more attractive to potential employers and things like that. So, and you're a certified mental health advocate and a trainer. Talk about these certifications and how that helps you in terms of your work today.
Yeah, for sure. So, we was able to start the certification process shortly after we, got a lot of academic review and became published, on an international platform working with, Harvard. And obviously we've had some other smaller, pilot studies. But what that has really done, the credibility has allowed us to step into our true power and allow other individuals to step into their power. So how this works is we train mental health advocates in an 8-hour format at a very meaningful, cost-effective rate of a day training. We also have a trainer-trainer format that's about a 2.5-day training where we're putting them into the shoes of who we are to go out and train other individuals. And then they also can get compensated for that as well. In most cases, we're working with partners and schools and entities that may provide grants and sponsorships to, training so many individuals at one time so that it can be a catalytic impact. But obviously, this can also, we host seminars and trainings all across the country. Our training is listed on our website as well. We do them virtually. We have different in-person trainings all across the coast that's happening from now until the end of the year. So we also just encourage anyone to pop into one of those if they want to, if they're just like, hey, I'm just ready to be a part of this right now. I can't wait. But nonetheless, the one of the key powers is the stigma of mental health. Even though there's a huge conversation happening, we still have in the last year, one of the highest suicide rates has been communicated by the CDC. And so we're seeing peak numbers in individuals dying by suicide right now. And so it's so important that we understand that there's only so many therapists and healthcare professionals that can truly help treat the problem, and that we giving individuals a sense of understanding fundamental, things that they can know to help someone who may be in a dire situation. And so that's what the training really provides. It provides them to be a listening ear, to help to route someone to professional services. And nonetheless, it helps to really help mitigate that information gap. There's a lot of people who just don't know how to contact 988 as the suicide prevention hotline, like what to expect, how to feel about it, right? And we need more advocates so we can expand the ecosystem of mental health advocates. And that's what we've been on the journey of, impacting 4 million people. And we're looking to just impact so many more people by doing it. So.
Man, I love this. I love what you're doing. And I think it's a great fit for the fraternity and sorority community too. I mean, when I think about the fraternity and sorority community, you've got other brothers that are kind of looking after you every day and they see you every day. So if you're not coming out of your room for like
Yeah.
5 days, you're not going to classes for 5 days mysteriously, and you haven't, taken a shower for 5 days, someone in the chapter has to be asking some questions. And so I like it within the fraternity and sorority community because if you could train, let's say 100% of Kappa Alpha Psi brothers have this certification, then I think that that becomes like a PR point to say that we care about our brothers, we're going to
Yep.
watch after them, and we're trained. We know what to do if we see that one of our brothers is going through something, you know? So I think there's a lot of promise there, especially within that fraternity and sorority community. I like it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think obviously as we even think about our more larger collegiate universities that have, thousands of, I mean, I can imagine Greek University reaches in universities that's got, 20, 30,000 students,
Yes.
and there may be a limited amount of counselors on campus, right?
Right.
Well, it's not to say that, counselors can't see everyone. It's also to say that fraternity and sorority members could also think about this in a way of being a gatekeeper and being a communicator to help get to counseling services and help to navigate how to maybe find off-campus services for someone who may just be going through some challenges. Maybe they just got some bad news from home. They're going to have to go through testing. This can be very overwhelming. These kind of things can spin out of control. And having an advocate there who can comfort you, make you feel seen, heard, safe is truly the community that we're looking to build around the work that we do. So
I love it. I think you're absolutely right. I think in the counseling center, no matter what university you're talking about, I'm not picking on any university. I'm just
yeah,
saying I don't think there's enough counselors in the counseling center, no matter what school you go to.
absolutely.
And so, and a lot of times when I'm talking to the college students, they come to me asking for solutions. I'll do a great program on hazing prevention, and then they'll
Yeah,
come up to me after the program and be like, Mike, this was great, but one of the problems that we have right now is it takes 3 or 4 weeks to see a counselor on campus. So what do we do about that? And so this
yes,
could be a really good solution here. I
yes,
really like
absolutely.
what you're doing. I love it. And you also wrote this book. It's called Jumping Over Life's Hurdles and Staying in the Race, which kind of threads together all of these lessons to tell a story about how you became this visionary of who you are today. So, what is your advice to the college students who are listening right now that also want to be thought leaders in their niche, whatever that is?
Mhm. Well, Jumping Over Life Hurdles and Staying in the Race was a memoir that talked about, being born in jail to an incarcerated mother, to experiencing juvenile incarceration myself, to experiencing post-graduation, to getting my first job, to now, being the founder of a national organization that focuses on mental health for communities abroad. And so it started off as a story, but each chapter really threads lessons and principles that really helps to help individuals to navigate. So also this we've created a sub workbook just for an example that's helping young people that are incarcerated to use that story, and there's a workbook that goes along with that. But nonetheless, using that as an example, the most powerful thing that this book really provides is narrative, and it provides a sense of individuals seeing themselves in who they really are. And because storytelling is so powerful, when you hear someone's story, whether they're getting a Grammy or whether they are receiving a big award, or nonetheless, whether they're just sharing a story about triumph and purpose, it really encourages and inspires each of us. And the most powerful thing about the book is that it teaches individuals how they can use their story to share and help to do the same. And so I believe we need more storytellers. We need more people who believe in the power of narrative and how we can share that narrative. And that really changes and shifts. You think about every industry, every level of business, across, religious factors, a story is always embedded some kind of way in explaining a product, idea, service, anything. And so it also even goes back to the fundamental belief that our stories truly unlock our potential. And so even though the story is about my journey, but I believe the book also encourages individuals to think about as you said, becoming thought leaders and how they can use the same formality to help push their journey and help to build, whether that's their brand and or build a movement or a community, of some sort.
Well, you are a great storyteller. All good speakers are, and you've done it with the book. So yeah, that's great advice. Go and pick up the book, and that'll really kind of show you how to be a thought leader in your space. And we should talk about mental health here. I mean, how do we create these healthy spaces in terms of mental health for men and boys of color? Because I think, for us as men, I mean, we're just not good at talking about our feelings that way.
Yeah. I think the most, first off, we think about, men have always been taught to be strong. There's always the factors of shame of a man really speaking about, no matter where you come from, which walk of life, all men have been trained, in most cases, or have been told that they have that they cannot cry or speak up about how they feel. Mm-hmm. Even if it hadn't been mentioned, there's been, media and narratives to show that men must, overcome without showing any kind of emotional output of any kind of sensitivity. And I believe that that's a very false narrative, that has really trapped a lot of men. And when you think about, how this has really also impacted us professionally, to really be in our best self. And so what our organization started off doing before we really engaged, women and frontline leaders, we really focused on men. It was also very hard work, because there's a lot of, historical factors. There's also a lot of just societal factors that, put men in a very challenging position. And also how a man who's unable to really convey his true emotions can really impact families and communities negatively, and can impact communities in a positive way if he understands the hygienic opportunities of practicing to talk about how they feel and to sharing vulnerable emotions. I believe this is where fraternities come in specifically, because how we were able to do this in barbershops across the country, it's also the illusion that we can do this in any format, regardless if it's a barbershop or a gymnasium. And so when we think about the impact, or a classroom, or even in a fraternity house, right, it's really taking that model and understanding that these are men who are just talking about everyday life and how, but when they leave, they're better. They feel better. There's a load that's been lifted. I mean, we've had men that we've worked with specifically that's been able to help other men from dying by suicide because they were able to listen to their story while getting a haircut. And so those are the powerful testimonies. And I mean, these are things that can be translated at any level, at any foundation. So.
Man, that's incredible work. I absolutely love what you're doing. And, you are being recognized for this work. You're the recipient of the Public Lifesaver Award from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, as well as the Multicultural Outreach Award from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. How does it feel to be recognized by these leaders within the mental health space?
Honestly, at first, I think it was a lot of, it was a sense of, am I good enough to get these awards? I mean, I think it was the imposter syndrome of, am I, is this even possible? But then I had to really do a lot of, I've been doing my own internal work, doing this work, and going to therapy and, seeking trauma therapists from, my earlier experiences, because I'm also someone who's been in that recovery of depression and overcoming that. But then, as I started to really understand the positive light that I've put out, that I am capable of receiving these accolades, and it is possible, and that I am deserving. And I believe that is just affirmative ways that we can affirm ourselves, that we are deserving, even when we may not have thought that we were. And I believe it's just revisiting the inner child in ourselves to ensuring and affirming that, we are the best version of who we've become. And I believe that's an acceptance. But I'm grateful, obviously, but I think just to share, it can also be challenging for individuals to receive a level of gratification and celebration. And it's okay, I believe, for us to navigate that as well. So.
Well, you're certainly worthy for the work that you've done. And thank you for talking about even your own journey and your own therapy, because that's another thing. I never went to therapy when I was in college. Yeah, we had a counseling center. Never once walked into the office. I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you, right? Not once. And then it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized how much value a therapy, session can bring to your life,
Yeah.
And so if the students just take advantage of it, you're paying for it anyway with your tuition. You might as well walk into that office because you're paying for it.
Yeah, yeah. And,
Oh,
I believe I never forget being an undergrad. I had just come from so much. I was wanting to accomplish so much. I think the biggest thing for me was I was really focused on an identity switch of something. And I think a lot of us are, right. We're going to college and we're looking to want to be better, and we're coming from whether that's high school or our education, and we're wanting to in a lot of ways be different, but also to live our dreams, but while doing so recognizing the factors of we may just experience some really challenging moments, and while doing so we need someone who can support us. And I was the same way. Our counseling building, I never forget, was kind of on a main street of the campus. So it was a lot of cars that would, going to and from. And, it was just kind of this, anyone who went in the building, it was almost like a stigma, like, oh, they're crazy, right? Because, it had, counseling on the building. And so I can only imagine for other students that may be going through that. Like, I didn't want to go in that building because I didn't want to look like I was a part of a group of folks that didn't have it together, and so I understand the pressures, and I've been there, and I truly, but I also echo that that's one of the greatest ways of showing self-love is by being able to enter to get help when needed. So.
yeah, that's beautiful. I agree with you completely. You're right. We got a lot of work to do on stigma. People feel broken if they get seen in that building. And so we got to work really, really hard to get rid of that stigma. And you're doing it every time you talk on stage. So I love what you're doing. And, we do love good food here at the
Yeah.
Fraternity Foodie
Yeah.
Podcast. I know there's a ton of great food in Atlanta because I'm pretty close by in Nashville. I'm a
Yeah.
big barbecue fan, but there's a lot of food in Atlanta that's really good too. And I'm
Yeah.
going to get to Atlanta in February. There's a big conference going on there in February, so I'll be there next month. Where should I go for a great meal in Atlanta?
Wow, I'm really still new to the area, but if I
Okay.
had to take a really, Atlanta has some really good, I would say honestly, seafood. I believe, obviously, I think New Orleans takes the rank on all seafood.
Yes, yes.
But I think there's just a lot of great diverse restaurants. If I had to, I went to a restaurant, I believe, a couple of months ago. It was a steakhouse. Buckhead has really good restaurants. Let me say
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I'm struggling with the name here, but there's a really good steakhouse in Buckhead that
Oh.
I feel that you would enjoy, and I have to make sure to send you the name once I can recall it. But yeah, I don't think you can really go wrong. I also think if you're into desserts, Atlanta has a huge kind of dessert landscape as well. So it's just really a lot of amazing, also diverse food from even, we're thinking about, Indian food, and, just the cultural, food components are here and available. And I wouldn't also sleep on your more, your cafes as well while you're here. So I think those, you'd be surprised. I know there's a couple of cafes in the metropolitan I think people would like as well. So
That sounds good to me. It sounds like I'm going to be eating well when I go to February conferences there in Atlanta. So I'm looking
yeah,
forward to it. I'll be in Buckhead for sure. So I'm going to get that name of that restaurant from you. You got to email it
yes,
to me so that way I can go and check it out. All right.
absolutely, absolutely, yes, yes,
All right. So
absolutely.
if our students, two things where I think our students can interact with you. I think number one, I think they might want to hire you to come and speak on their college campus.
So
So I need to know where they can go to connect with you for speaking, but also where they can go to connect with you to get that mental health training too.
yeah, for sure. So to connect with me across and it may be easier across social media platforms, but we do have a website. You can visit Lorenzo P. Lewis. That's consistent across all the social media sites, but also have a website that's set up. That's also you can find jumping over life hurdles and staying in the race with that as well. And so that's LorenzoPLewis.com. If you're interested in mental health trainings, getting certified with our Beyond the Shop mental health certification, that is the Confess Project of America.org. That's also across all social media platforms as well. You can also find me on the Confess Project's website if it's easier to navigate. All of that's connected. But yes, look forward to connecting with Greek University and our work that we can better do to continue to help empower our college students in our community. So
I love it. All right. It's called the Confess Project. Look that up online, or you can go to LorenzoPLewis.com in order to connect with him and bring him to your campus to start that mental health conversation. So, Lorenzo, man, all the respect in the world. I love what you're doing. I think you're going to connect with fraternity and sorority members across the country. I can't wait to see you up on stage. So, thank you so much for sharing all this great info with us today.
absolutely. No, thank you so much, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And to our audience, if you enjoyed this talk with Lorenzo, I want you to like this on social media and I want you to share it with other college students that need to hear this conversation, this critical conversation on mental health. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.